Again, I mean, you understand systems, and as you talk about, right, the mindset of business. And so my big thing is, and this is like breaking news, but it always breaks this way in OUSD. So
Mhm.
we just did, the financial report, and they like, yeah, you're gonna have to do an $18 million cut
Mhm.
every year. We have to do an $18 million cut or a $21 million cut or the $30 million cut when they got mad when that superintendent from before was like, if y'all don't do something different, if you don't do a freeze, if you don't stop spending in this way, and 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 he said, I'll leave and they'll be talking about me, but I will have told the truth. And
Right.
so here we are with a very serious structural deficit. And so I'm a little pragmatic in this baby too.
Mhm.
Yeah, affordable housing, and it starts out a vision for affordable housing. But then I kind of went, and you can help me even with this language. I was like, and then adequate housing, right? Because I'm like, no, we need to condoize some stuff.
Mhm.
We need to be if you can purchase something and get some equity, and begin to build some wealth.
Right.
And if you only make $15 an hour inside of OUSD, and that because that's like gonna be one of your mini hustles, but that's the line that you're at, the
Mhm.
median income line, then yeah, I need to have rental type properties for you. I need to have something that fits in that way. But again, with resource and land, I'm not understanding why we can't do some mixed use. We can't figure out
I
uh
mean,
how you
I'm
gonna
hearing,
collect. Could we collect some rent?
and I'm hearing you say a few different things. And what I'm hearing you say is we need to start being business savvy because we have a district that does not serve the same number of students that it once did. We got a lot of buildings. Some of those buildings are just housing air, and we still have to pay to keep it open or
Right.
what.
And we mad about a charter school that want to move into it.
I mean, that's a
By the
whole
way.
different set of politics, right?
I know.
Right? That we end up fighting about, right? But it's like, if we have some assets that's not being used, like when do you cash in on those assets while we actually can get a good return because of where property is? Or how do we build something on top of it where the district can become an actual landowner and actually bring in some funds on top of like just depending on the state or whatever, especially when we have the history of receivership that we have, right? I think that's listen, I think it's going to take some bold proposals to get out of the issues and the mess that we've been in. And I think that it's going to take for some people to like look at the numbers and where they are. I mean, none of this stuff is new. Like all this information is made available. It's just not the conversation that people like to have. We've got FICMAT reports. We've got money reports. We've got a whole bunch of reports every single year that have told
Grand
us the
jury.
same thing, right? Like consolidate less, do this, do that, or this is the financial issue you're going to be in. But we like to kick the can because political pressures come and people don't like, they get scared of people yelling at them when, on the dice, right? Like, and it's like, at some point we got to put our kids first. What are the decisions we need to make that will put kids in the best position to survive, and not just survive but to thrive, right? Like what does it look like for
Mhm.
OUSD to thrive? But here's the thing, I think there's a lot of people that don't necessarily want to see OUSD thrive because
Oh,
they lose they gonna lose some things that they might be having right now, and it ain't about these kids, right? It's about their financial standing. It's about their financial well-being. So for instance, I worked in a district. We
that's right.
still got somebody that physically has to process reimbursements in 2020. In 2020, I mean, and listen, those are nice people. I have no issue with that, right? But there's systems that do that now. I remember having to walk down, get on an elevator, go to the third floor, turn in something that was hand done on triplicate and turn it in and then wait almost a month to get money back. And I mean, but again, right?
Highly inefficient.
And Dr. Brian Stanley would talk about this a lot, right? And he would say, you know why? Because people only see this as an educational institution. It would be nice if that's what we were, but we're the second largest job provider in Oakland. and we just won't have the conversation about what that means and what we need to do. So we'll say stuff like, oh, you're a privatizer, or you're this, or you're selling everything off to the charters, you're giving off these things, and you can have issues with whatever you want to have issues with. But the story that I told you was before there was the proliferation of charter schools, right? Like, we were already bleeding students. We were already bleeding Black people when that was happening. When I was a student, Black students were the majority demographic in OUSD. And now they're not. We have fallen a lot, right? You know what I'm saying? Because people can't afford to live in this city. Now, you can blame whatever you want, but if we still got plans that's operating off of something from 20 years ago or 15 years ago, then you're getting the results that you should be expecting to give. And nobody just wants to be the adult and stand up and kind of take that heat. And listen, and people give Antoine Wilson whatever heat they want to give him, but I worked with the man, and I saw him try to do things for kids and for Black kids. I saw him stand and take that heat, and I saw him on his way out, and he said, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Blame me on the way out. It's totally fine. It's okay. But this is where you're going to end up if you don't. Right. And where are we right now?
Right where he said we're going to be, doing the same thing. $21 million, $18 million.
Yeah.
And then, but then, you know, after proclaiming, we're going to do, you know, race equity work and implicit bias, and we're going to get rid of, you know, cops. That's a whole nother topic too. But, you know, we're going to replace them with nurses and social workers, because, you know, our kids are such pathological.
Right. I mean, I would love for us to have nurses and social. I'm a social worker. I think every school should have a social worker. That's great if you can do that, right? And here's the thing: there's two conversations that's always happening, and I say this as a OUSD insider.
Yeah.
I say this as somebody who used to talk about schools and like having to close something down, and they be like, "Don't close my school. I hate charters." And then there will be a line after the meeting that says, "How do I get my kid in the KIPP?" And I remember this because you used to be at the meetings, right? And so here are the two conversations.
When you gave them real information,
right?
You know,
right. And here's the thing, right? What happens is there's a public conversation where people are posturing and they're acting like they care about kids, and they're acting like they care about outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Then we push and say, okay, well, how are we going to measure if we're successful? What are we going to look at? And then they don't want to have no responsibility. And then there's the conversation that happens behind closed doors. There's a conversation of people that actually know what's going on and that see this stuff kind of happening. But because it's not the politically prudent conversation to have, they just watch and let things happen. And they feel okay just saying, I told you so, those doors. And at some point, you got to merge those two. At some point, somebody got to stand up and say, this is what we need to do. This is the goal for the district. And these are the plans that we got. And so I think you need bold solutions to bold problems. Oakland has a bold homeless problem. So, and here's the other thing. We find money when we need to. The same way they found a stimulus package to, like, you know, give people that $1,400 or $1,200 or whatnot.
There you go. In the trillions.
The district has found money when it's needed to get there, but like set a goal and then fundraise around that thing. And if homelessness is something that we really care about, or teacher housing or whatever it is, then you got to actually put a line in the sand and not sway off of what you say you're going to do. Because we don't sway when we got to close the Black stuff. We don't sway when it's like, oh, well, this is the reason why we making this point. You know, when we sway, when we talk about closing somebody's white school, and then
we
show up.
We did the swirly swirl sway.
You know when we sway, when we say, when there's a whole thing on, like, out in public, I say, get police out of our schools, get police out of our schools. But behind closed doors, every board member and the superintendent is getting emails from parents saying, don't you dare, I wish you would take them people out of my school. I'm not sending my kid back to Castlemont if you take such and such out of school.
It's gonna be mayhem.
And nobody wants to have that.
What about the conversation where we can talk about who called the police? Nobody want to have that conversation.
Exactly, right. and I think, and again, I'm whatever the decision is that you make, I'm fine with it. But my thing is, when those chickens come home to roost, don't run from the barn, baby. Like, and I think that's what tends to happen. You know, we make decisions because some of us know we won't be there. Some of us are like, I'm not going to be on that school board, or I'm coming on this school board because I want to be on city council, really. And so I got to come in and I got to shake stuff up. even if stuff that's about to work.
That's
So I got to be in opposition to you. And then they get that lot in life and they go on the school board. I mean, they go on
right.
to the city council, and that thing that they brought where they was just disruptive for no reason just dies. And it's
Just dies.
it's more money
Yeah.
that's just wasted and more
You're
kids.
no longer the
lost.
unicorn. Like, you're not magical. I mean, you
Yeah.
find that out, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. I was talking to a school board candidate, and I know we're getting long-winded, but I think we need to talk about that. I was talking to a school board candidate, and he said, "Well, let's look at how good Fremont is doing." And then the families that I was working with said, "According to whom? Like, how do you have the second largest Latino population as seniors, and 40% of those kids is graduating, and it was like 15% of those kids graduated with A through G." 15% out of like this, like, so who is it doing better for? Tell me again, right? And it's like there's a difference between being proud of your school and wanting it to do well, and also two, being honest about what we need to improve and working on those
Right.
improvements.
That, oh my goodness.
I went to
That honesty piece. That's that policy level too, right? You know, it's like, be honest in your policy around what you're gonna do.
Mhm.
We celebrated last night the CTE work.
Mhm.
But the conflation of, what people went, well, if I don't want to go to college, then there's really nothing for me.
Mhm.
And yet we're trying to say, but no, you could be a carpenter, and
Mhm.
here's what those jobs cut. We're flashing all what the economic thing is.
Yeah, I mean,
However, moments before, we looked at 18%, reading proficiency.
right. But here's
So
the thing, Jim. Okay, we don't talk about that. What we talk about is, hey, we are graduating more Black boys than ever, right? And it's like, yeah, but how many of those kids are we making sure are A through G eligible, right?
That's-
We just McClymonds for the last 4 years have won the last 3 out of the last 4 state
yeah,
football
yeah,
championships.
but yeah.
These
Mhm.
kids should have been getting scholarships to go play at D1 schools or whatnot. And then while a lot of them graduated, tell me the number of them that were actually A through G eligible when scouts came to look at them, right? And I love McClymonds. Like I said, I'm proud to be from Oakland. I'm proud to be an alum of Hawthorne, Lafayette, and Westlake. I'm super proud of that. And I love the lineage of it. I love being able to say I went to the same elementary school as Huey P. Newton. But I also read Huey's book, and the first page of one of the most translated books ever that everybody that wants to be like Huey P. Newton reads about how to be an activist. He starts off not even in the chapter, like under it by itself. Not at all did I ever have a teacher that related to me in the Oakland public schools, right? Like, so like, if we gonna talk about it, let's actually talk about, and let's you can be proud and want better at the same time.
That's right. And we deserve better, and our kids deserve better. All these conversations, development and all these things, it really, really is. It should be pointing right back down to a student that is healthy, that's thriving, as you talked about, has a sense of themselves, and actually can see that a city cared about me, right? And the people cared about me in some kind of way. That to me, as I sit in the space around policy, that's all it should be about, right? Like, all them words, it should come down to that bit of a piece, right?